Not a sponsored video, purchased with my own money. Exact specifications of this knife in the link below. It's cold steel Contour TAC 2. Made in Taiwan, and it's a small, you can see, dagger type knife. Here's the front of it, and it's flat at the back. Comes with you know, the hardened plastic sheath, which has loops so that you can attach it to your belt either, you know, like this, but also has a clip to put into a boot or a knife, or a belt or something like that. Now, it is considered a boot knife, and it's fairly small, as you can see. It's incredibly sharp. It's a strong knife. It's sharp on both ends, and because it's a dagger type function, you can see it's crazy sharp. I've used this little knife quite a lot. I've even skinned deer with this knife. It's a little bit dirty just now because of I was cooking some lunch with it earlier. So I do use this little knife, which I often take with me on some trips. But the main purpose of a blade like this, or a knife like this, in my opinion, is, to me, this is a self-defense knife. Now, using a knife for self-defense purposes, the legalities of that are obviously dependent on the country or state that you are in at the time, or come from. The country I live in, for example, in the UK, is pretty much a police state, so it's not actually legal, I don't think, to have any kind of knife or weapon of any description as a means of self-defense. The law in this country basically says that you're just to die. Somebody invades your home, you know, just die. Or if you get attacked in the street, just, you know, hopefully you can run away, or, you know, fight them off as best you can. And even then, there's a good chance that you'll probably be convicted for defending yourself. But that aside, I purchased this small knife really because I've seen it. It was on offer actually online, and I thought, I've always wanted a little bit of a little dagger. In some countries actually, dagger type knives like this are illegal, which is because in reality its primary function, a knife like this, is a stabbing knife. It's definitely a knife that's been designed to be a weapon as opposed to being any kind of practical tool for bushcraft or survival or anything like that. Although it can obviously be used that way. Having the double serration on both ends is quite useful, in that once one end becomes dull, you can then just use the other end. So I would actually say that a small dagger like this is a good addition to having in a survival kit, or as a survival knife, because as long as you know, okay, I'm in a place where I'm going to be a long time before I'm rescued or whatever, I'm going to use the end of the knife with the writing for, you know, cutting and things like that. You can double the lifespan of your knife before you have to find a means to sharpen it, because it's serrated at both ends, which was one of the reasons you have axes with two heads, so, you know, you could get twice the amount of work done. From a self-defense point of view though, and like I say, it's dependent on the legalities of where you're from, but I'm going to go on the assumption that you're allowed to defend yourself if you're attacked in some way. or if you're in the military or whatever. A knife like this is, you can see it's not particularly big, and it almost looks a little bit pathetic, it's so small. But it's not pathetic. It's very strong, it's a silent knife, and because it's so small, you can put this down into your boot and travel with it without fear of it being noticed. Or you can put it at the base of your back on a belt, which is where I would tend to recommend putting it. And if you were in this scenario, for example, say you had this as a boot knife, or hidden behind you, because it's not an obvious knife. If you were kidnapped and thrown in the back of a car or something, this, grabbing it, this would be a devastating tool for you to be able to try and fight your way out of that situation. Because it's serrated on both ends, you can flare your arms around in a panic as much as you want, and anywhere where this blade touches the person who you're defending yourself against, it's going to slice and cut. But more importantly, because it's so sharp, because it's a dagger type configuration, you can push this into things like body armor, even a lot of knife proof body armor. A knife like this can sort of find its way through it, and because it's so small, it can get in there, and it may or may not be big enough to be fatal to the person you're defending yourself against, but that's irrelevant. Really, all you want to do is get away from the situation that you're in. The only thing I would say that I don't really like about this knife is I don't like the fact that it's flat on one end and beveled on the top. I would have preferred it to be beveled on both sides. I don't know what it is. I kind of get the feeling it's kind of like a half a knife by being this way, and that's not really the case. The reason it's flat on this end is so that it, you can hold it closer to your person and whatever. But I would have liked to have seen it a knife beveled on both ends, and I might actually look to see if I can find one that is like that. Because when you're sharpening a knife like this, really what you're doing is you're sharpening down one end. You're not sharpening at this end, so you're always sharpening this way. And I would prefer a knife that was sharpened at both ends. That I think would be a more effective tactical knife. But you do get these in different sizes. You get larger ones, and I think you may even get a smaller one than this, which is incredible. But it feels incredibly sturdy. It's just rock solid. It has no bend in it whatsoever. It's just the right size for my hand. I can hold it, and it has the guard protection that it's not going to slip. It just feels like a tool that you could, if you grasped in your hand, you could fight your way sort of out of any situation. And it's small enough and incognito enough that you can use it almost the same way that you would use a folding knife, but you don't have the inconvenience of having to unfold that knife or worry about the mechanism breaking on you or whatever. This is a much more formidable little tool, particularly in the self-defense world of carrying a knife.